Hey Ghosts, I hope you're all doing well. I wanted to make a response to ASQD gaming video because I think it's important to review in context to a potential new game reveal anywhere from this summer, to the end of the year and possibly up to the first quarter of next year. Whenever the game gets released, we'll just have to wait and find out. But I think there's a few important things to talk about from this video. This topic has to be addressed because throughout the lifespan of Ghost Recon, it has created so many sub-communities that have different aspirations for the new game. We don't all agree on the same things, but it's apparent according to the leaks that Ubisoft has once again defined the type of game that it wants to create, and the only thing that we can do as a community is just wait for it to be revealed and released. So in ASQD's video, he made mention to what he described as the core Ghost Recon community. If you listen to what the core Ghost Recon community want, it's very clear that a lot of us don't fit within this category. With the ASQDs and bullet catchers having a large audience in what I call the Ghost Recon Wildlands community, I think our fellow YouTubers think they represent the whole or majority of the Ghost Recon community, and that couldn't be any further from the truth. Just take the time to listen to some of the important comments made by ASQD in these clips.
Hey Ghost Recon fans, have you ever wondered what a true sequel to Ghost Recon Wildlands would actually look like? Well, when it comes down to what the core Ghost Recon community actually wants from the franchise, it is just that, a proper sequel to Ghost Recon Wildlands, i.e. Ghost Recon Wildlands 2. That what the core Ghost Recon community really wants is a proper sequel to Ghost Recon Wildlands. Continuous rumors from Tom Henderson that the game is going in a more Call of Duty / Ready or Not style gameplay loop and a return to the first-person perspective. The identity of the Ghost Recon franchise is hanging in the balance. So with all of that being said, here in today's video, we're going to be going down through and discussing the game that the core Ghost Recon community actually wants for the next installment of the franchise. These are not my opinions alone, these are opinions of the Ghost Recon community that I have gathered from multiple areas of social media, including Reddit, Twitter, Discord, and YouTube.
Now, that was ASQD's opinions in his video on what the Ghost Recon community wants according to what he has gathered from social media and Discord. We'll get to look at a few Reddit posts shortly, but let me just head back to the topic at hand before looking at them. I think Ubisoft have a different point of view of what the core Ghost Recon community is, and so too will many of you. Their point of view seems to change every 10 years or so according to what they think. Why is this video important? There's a hysteria from what I call the Ghost Recon Wildlands community that if the next game doesn't resemble it in story building, being third person, the open world features, that it won't be a successful Ghost Recon game and that it's not listening to its core audience. There's a few reasons why I think this is not a helpful view to hold. The first being is that the leaks are catering to a demographic of tactical shooters in which this game will appeal to. The Wildlands community will argue that Wildlands was the biggest financial success and therefore, every Ghost Recon game should now resemble this game. Ghost Recon Breakpoint was a flop, and that's because it deviated from Wildlands. That's the argument, and I'll let you guys decide if you think that's true or not. With a potential reveal likely not being far from now, I think a lot of us who enjoy tactical games like Arma, Ready or Not Squad, the original Ghost Recon games, Operation Flashpoint, SWAT 4, Ground Branch, Escape from Tarkov, Gray Zone Warfare. There's a lot of good tactical games with a large audience and a lot of influential success. Ghost Recon Wildlands isn't a tactically respected game, and it never was, despite its financial success to the mainstream casual audience. If you notice, a lot of our Ghost Recon Wildlands YouTubers like the ASQDs and bullet catchers want a Wildlands game but with all the tactical features from games like Arma and Ready or Not. The reason for that is because Wildlands isn't a tactical game akin to the games mentioned. Personally, Ghost Recon Wildlands resembles a military Grand Theft Auto game in my opinion, and it doesn't hit the tactical itch that a lot of tactical YouTuber channels would consider a good tactical game. How do we know this? Wildlands is never hardly covered, and it hasn't had the longevity that other games have had in the genre. Is it a good game? Heck yeah. I enjoy Wildlands and I have fun with it now and then. Personally, I enjoyed Breakpoint a lot more than Wildlands because it was gritty, better gameplay, and I thought the missions and DLCs were more than fine. I think the leaks suggest that Ubisoft realizes this, and they want to improve Ghost Recon by returning back to tactical form. Whether they execute it or not, we are yet to see. But that seems to be the idea. Let's take a look at what I posted on Reddit. What's up, Ghosts? It's likely we're going to get news on the next Ghost Recon game this year or before Q1 of 2026. As you know, there are so many sub-communities within the Ghost Recon community, and there are so many of us that want different things from the game. After watching ASQD Gaming's video, he kept using this statement, the core Ghost Recon community. I tend to classify the communities in Ghost Recon as following. 1. OG Ghost Recon community. They play the older Ghost Recon titles and enjoy authentic tactical titles like Arma, Ready or Not, Ground Branch. They want Ghost Recon to return to its GR1/GRAW roots. 2. The Wildlands community. They love the open world of Wildlands, and they believe every Ghost Recon game should resemble or continue where Wildlands left off. Every Ghost Recon game must be third person. 3. The Breakpoint community. They continue to support this game and play with recent mods like Spartan Mod, Fear the Radio, Thank the Radio, and more mods. They prefer Breakpoint to Wildlands. Most believe Ghost Recon should be third person. With all the leaks we've been given by Tom Henderson, I think the game appeals to the OG Ghost Recon community more than the other two, and not to the Wildlands community which ASQD describes as the core Ghost Recon community. Mind you, there are so many tactical YouTubers like Devil Dog, Operator Drewski, Blue Drake that loved and played Ghost Recon, but have left the community because they don't take Ghost Recon serious anymore. Personally, I don't like the term the core Ghost Recon community, and I think it disregards all the communities that existed before Wildlands and after it. We all have different expectations and wants from the game, and we all come here to discuss and debate because we have nothing better to do. In my latest videos on the GR leaks, I've always mentioned that the next game seems it's going to disappoint the Wildlands crowd. I personally think Ghost Recon can be a financial success without the Wildlands community, because there are more first-person players from COD, Battlefield, and other games which would love to experience a first-person squad-based open-world game. Objectively, in my opinion. Even from the Far Cry franchise, which did better numbers and still is than Wildlands. What are your thoughts on the topic above? Does Ubisoft need to appeal to the Wildlands community for the next game to be successful? Do you even agree with my categorization of the community? If the Wildlands community do not get their expectations met, will the game still be a Ghost Recon game? Let me know your thoughts respectfully. P.S. There is some speculation that we might get a reveal in this weekend's Summerfest. Most likely a Splinter Cell reveal, but maybe we will get a GR reveal too. Let's see. So let's take a look at the first comment from a prominent member of the Ghost Recon community. Larison, core community can mean many things like you say. The original fans, the most numerous fans, the most recent fans, or a loose centrist consensus fans. It's a vague term, deliberately imprecise, like something a lawyer or politician says to win people over, while ultimately meaning nothing. On the Henderson leaks, they are over a year old, and we have not yet received any official word from Ubisoft about a future game, aside from Ghost Recon being part of their open-world action-adventure strategy. These leaks do not lead me to believe the game is going to appeal to the OG community. Maybe more so than WL or BP, but the game will still be closer to recent titles than the 2001 original, even if it returns to first person. Almost Milsim-like, but not quite. Henderson references similarities to Modern Warfare, Battlefield, Squad, and Ready or Not. The story element about nearly shooting a baby sounds ripped out of Modern Warfare's clean house. Comparing to Battlefield implies large maps and combined arms. That sounds more similar to WL than the original, with being able to use vehicles or call in mortar/artillery. Comparisons to Squad further back this up. Ready or Not is later mentioned a second time for graphical comparison, so I take it as the similarities there being mostly superficial. and when combined with MW lead to a generically edgy storyline. Honestly, I think it will be hard not to disappoint the Wildlands crowd. While definitely not perfect, the game set a very high bar. The story, the world building, the map, the characters. There is far more there than just third-person perspective. Despite Breakpoint being very much the same game, it highlights how much the little details in the background matter. Ubisoft just needs to make a good game. Ghost Recon has a bit of an identity crisis. There are some pretty wild swings in gameplay game to game compared to Assassin's Creed or Far Cry, yet each game has its fans. Good means different things to different people, and while Ubisoft tends to try and swing for the broadest appeal, they typically been failing with that strategy for the last half-decade. Can they pull it off and succeed with this one? Maybe. I hope they do. I have my preferences, but a game that doesn't perfectly fit that isn't necessarily bad. We don't get to define what is a Ghost Recon game. Ubisoft does. Ghost Recon 2 wasn't a real Ghost Recon game because it was console only and third person. GRAW wasn't a real Ghost Recon game because cross-comm and all the red shoot here cues. FS wasn't a real Ghost Recon game because it was too linear and cinematic. Phantoms wasn't a real Ghost Recon game because it was PvP only and had the weird sci-fi aesthetic. Wildlands wasn't a real Ghost Recon game because they were out of uniform and gameplay was softer. Breakpoint wasn't a real Ghost Recon game because it was never properly finished. Frontline wouldn't have been a real Ghost Recon game because you weren't even going to play as a ghost. Over won't be a real Ghost Recon game because reasons. I'm hoping we get something this weekend. Rumors early this year were for a bunch of Ubisoft announcements by the end of May. First week of June isn't that far off from that. There was a really good comment too from a member called Professional Cream 119. He said, "At the end of the day, no other game developer has such a deviation in preferences of its veteran players compared to new players today, and players they picked up along the way, because no other game developer has done so many annual titles or chained together quick release franchises, while at the same time significantly changing or overhauling major aspects of each franchise each new release, constantly reinventing how that franchise plays, its mechanic, and even the flow of its normal story. For all their faults, Ubisoft is extremely innovative. They experiment and try new stuff all the time, and sometimes it's well received with fans, Wildlands, and sometimes it's not, Far Cry 6. And sometimes it's half-baked slop in which they are just using the popularity of previous games to sell the next title for maximum revenue. Breakpoint and Shadows. When you play a Ubisoft title from a franchise you've played multiple times, you really don't know if it's going to be the same thing that you've played before or something that's completely different. And whether that's good or bad doesn't matter. Ubisoft will continue to do that again and again and again through each one of their releases. But it's because of this formula that you have such a large population of veteran players who don't like what their favorite franchise has turned into. Because each and every one of Ubisoft's franchises are significantly different from the first versions of their game. Because they've constantly experimented, innovated, and implemented new stuff in each and every title. You are not going to find the same people liking Ghost Recon 2 compared to Wildlands. You'll be hard-pressed to find the same people who like Far Cry 2 liking Far Cry 5. Assassin's Creed? They are probably more divided in opinion than any other Ubisoft game community. No other franchise has gone through so many shifts, evolutions, and changes over the years. And because of that, its fan base is all over the place. But again, this is just how Ubisoft operates. It's been their formula for over 20 years now. And they're still standing while other big studios are having to fold and sell off to Sony and MS. So even though they've done a lot wrong, they are obviously doing something right. I responded saying, "This is probably the best and diplomatic explanation to the evolution of Ubisoft and the Ghost Recon community. I think it's important that we can realize this. I think AC might be more fractured than the GR community if I'm not mistaken, but the similarities are very apparent." And he finally said, Assassin's Creed community is extremely divided. That /FuckYouBySoft main focus is the Assassin's Creed franchise. Most of them don't even talk about or play Far Cry, Ghost Recon, or Rainbow Six games. But the franchise went through an evolution after the Ezio/Altair storyline, then another one right afterwards with Black Flag, then another evolution after Unity, and now another evolution of the franchise has shown itself with Shadows. As toxic as they are all hardcore veteran Assassin's Creed fans. They just can't accept the fact that Ubisoft will never make those games again and will continue to constantly evolve the franchise as they see fit. And they also can't accept the fact that even if they don't like the new versions of the game, there are going to be plenty of new modern gamers who do. That same regard, you will always find Ghost Recon players who will never be able to accept Wildlands or Breakpoint. They want the tactical shooters of old, not the open-world squad combat games of today. ASQD actually shared in the comments and said, "Just for reference, I would classify the core Ghost Recon audience as the ones that are playing the game currently and over the last 5 to 10 years. Anyone can say that they played the first Ghost Recon 25 years ago. But if they haven't played any Ghost Recon since then, I wouldn't call them a part of the core Ghost Recon audience." Wildlands sold over 15 million copies, far above any other Ghost Recon ever made. With that in mind, it should be the baseline DNA for the franchise moving forward. Could be iterated on and expanded upon to make the game even more in-depth and more appealing to more people. Also, you can say that a return to the roots would be good, but also that was 25 years ago. It's a completely different age of gaming with a lot more competition, especially in the first-person shooter genre. In the end, I just want to see the Ghost Recon franchise succeed, and I strongly feel that it will not based on the current leaks. But I noticed a few things here, and I responded, as a few folks have said here, Ubi innovates, and they change the formula often with their IPs. I don't think that's a logical reason to keep the rest of all Ghost Recon games the same template as Wildlands and Breakpoint. Ubisoft really define what Ghost Recon is from game to game. That doesn't work. There are a lot of us that still play Wildlands and Breakpoint, but we prefer the older games to the new ones. With that said, I think the term core audience is extremely relative. I would think the core GR audience would be the GR1 audience who have moved on to more tactical games because they were the initial audience. And yet, if Ubi pulls this off, it will be making the only open-world squad-based shooter in first person, going back to its roots and inspired by the best games in the genre like Ready or Not. It seems they're trying to keep up with current trends. You know, looking at ASQD's comment here and listening to his video, his definitions are very loose, inconsistent, and illogical. I don't think it makes sense. If one simply just loves Ghost Recon Wildlands and thinks every Ghost Recon game should resemble it, I actually don't have a problem with it. That's your personal preference. It's a really good game. But since when does appealing to casual fans determines the core community and DNA of a game? This is something I do not believe, cannot co-sign, and it does not make logical sense. I want to partially answer ASQD's comments by looking at a few comments Bulletcatcher made in one of his latest videos, The Legacy of Ghost Recon. Take a listen to what he said.
They matter. Why are they important? Obviously, the realism and the immersion. You know, people want innovation in AI and squad control. You know, especially on PC, the community and modding culture is huge. I think it helps carry the franchise forward. And to a degree, you could argue this one way or another, but perhaps sometimes more of a niche fan base. I'm not saying it's a small fan base, but I think those people that really want that real tactical experience sometimes can be more niche. You know, if you make a good Ghost Recon game, you basically want to be able to use niche and mix it with, you know, just your standard gamer and have those settings to turn on and off. Look at the DNA that that game had within it. The DNA in that game can still be seen in Call of Duty today. That's how important having a DNA in your games are. And the reason why I want to know about, and I'm asking the question about Ghost Recon's legacy, is because I want to know what you think. What is Ghost Recon's legacy? Does it stand with some of these other games that we mentioned, the Rainbow Sixes and the SOCOMs and those types of games in the tactical shooter world, or against some of the newer tactical shooters like Ready or Not, Tarkov, things like that? Yes, they are all kind of different games, but they still sit within a genre. Is Ghost Recon at the top? Now, I love Ghost Recon. I've enjoyed pretty much every Ghost Recon game I've ever played, some better than others. But the DNA for me will always come back to Wildlands. Wildlands was the game that got the DNA right. And from Wildlands, that's where the DNA should have been taken forward for the next 20 years of Ghost Recon games, should have been built from that DNA. So
Now this comment is similar to the topic of the video, discussing who the core Ghost Recon community is to what the DNA of Ghost Recon is, but they are closely related and important. But let's analyze what was just said. The DNA for me will always come back to Wildlands. Wildlands was the game that got the DNA right. And from Wildlands, that's where the DNA should have been taken forward for the next 20 years and built from that DNA. Are we talking about the same game where surveys are given out to the community, asking us if we want features from all the real tactical games in the genre in the next Ghost Recon game? Are we talking about the game that's praised so highly in its own community, but doesn't get the same respect outside in the real tactical community? To me, this sounds like the definition of a real echo chamber. Are saying that the most popular Ghost Recon game, because it sold more, should be the template of every Ghost Recon game for the next 20 years, because it's casual player-based love games like Grand Theft Auto and they saw it as a good alternative to play? That game? This doesn't make any sense to me and to a lot of Silent Ghost Recon fans. But alright, we'll let you have this one. As I've said many times in this video, we all have preferences and there's nothing wrong with them. I understand Wildlands was a great experience for some people in the Ghost Recon community, but to claim that a game you're requesting so many tactical features to be added in a new Wildlands 2 game because they were lacking in the first, it doesn't make sense. The DNA of Ghost Recon is and always will be Ghost Recon 1, whether it deviated from its full tactical features or not. Since we're talking about the Ghost Recon Wildlands community, I have another gripe with them, and this is something I've seen over the years which I have not received any response about. And this point is important as it focuses on the game and the things we want from Ghost Recon. Please don't confuse my contentions with ideas with our community leaders, because this is really not the intention. I'm tackling ideas and discussing the issue of identity pertaining the state of Ghost Recon. So let me begin. Over the last couple of years or so, we have seen so many videos, podcasts, Discord discussions, all pertaining to being disappointed with Ghost Recon Breakpoint's release to some of its updates. Since then, we have seen some of the best mods coming out from the Ghost Recon Breakpoint community, from the Spartan Realism mod, to the Fear the Radio mods, Thank the Radio mods, Snipers in the Wild mod, Increase Enemy Presence mod, to even having a first-person mod. We have seen modders turn Breakpoint into one of the best tactical and unique experiences that you can't experience anywhere else. As much as I love Arma, the gameplays are totally different. But the experience Breakpoint modded experience is incredible, so much so that I kinda stopped caring about the next Ghost Recon game because it's really hard to think if any game can top that tactical arcade gameplay. It's really hardcore. Despite all the petitions from the Wildlands community to improve the franchise and add all these new mechanics, we've seen literally zero gameplay or mod videos, showcasing them or even supporting members of the community. If I'm wrong, I stand corrected. But you would think the Ghost Recon Wildlands and Breakpoint would fully support modding Breakpoint, and using this as a case that this is the type of intense gameplay that we want in the next game. I can tell you now that only a handful of Ghost Recon Breakpoint YouTubers showcase these gameplay mods, and you can find a lot of these videos on my channel. Why is that? Because Wildlands good, Breakpoint bad. That's the logic that we have here. These mods actually restore the core DNA of Ghost Recon by forcing you to actually implement reconnaissance and close-quarter combat tactics, whether you're aware of these doctrines or not. If you don't apply tactical doctrines, you're going to see the death screen more times than you wish. These mods bring back, in a modern sense, what a Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter firefight would look like with today's technology. I think if there was a modern Ghost Recon 1 and Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter game, the gameplay would be slowed down quite a bit. But I can only commend our modders for wanting to try to improve a game that we all unilaterally felt that Ubisoft didn't do a great job at. But Ubisoft did deliver in providing some great DLCs into the game and additional content. The modding community simply added a great legacy to the game, which I don't think we will see from Ubisoft. So what's my point? If the Wildlands community really cared about Ghost Recon, I would think we would see more promotion and support pertaining to Ghost Recon mods. And this is a comment that I made on Bullet Catcher's video. Again, all respect to our Ghost Recon community leaders, but I am utterly confused by this. Take a look at our comments here. Now this is the last section of this video, and let's talk about the Ghost Recon Wildlands community's response to the new game leaks and what I think is likely to happen when the game gets announced to released. When the Wildlands community saw the article leaks saying new Ghost Recon game leaks tease a return to series roots, this wasn't something they were pleased about, but rather till this day they are disgruntled by. Why? Even though they think they are the core Ghost Recon community and Wildlands is or should be the franchise's core DNA, they don't think highly of the older games that influenced the actual tactical shooters that we have today. The same tactical shooters that they want all the tactical features in their Ghost Recon Wildlands too. Do you know what I personally reckon? If Red Storm was still part of Ubisoft today, I think Ghost Recon would strongly resemble or simply be Ground Branch with all the funding and resources it needs. Let's take a look at the article again. New leaks suggest that the next Ghost Recon title could be returning to the franchise's roots. The last two entries in the series, Ghost Recon Wildlands and Ghost Recon Breakpoint, adopted the more typical formula seen in recent Ubisoft titles, seeing the ghosts exploring large open-world maps to defeat an enemy threat such as a cartel or a group of mercenaries. And while Ubisoft was developing a free-to-play Ghost Recon Battle Royale title, this was cancelled less than a year after its 2021 announcement. As per a report from Insider Gaming, the upcoming Ghost Recon game, which is reportedly in development under the name Project Over/Over, the new title will see the ghosts infiltrate a hostile southeast country to carry out secret missions and to locate a traitor during the fictional Name and War. So it's possible that this open-world formula may continue. Unlike recent games in the series, Project Over will not be a third-person shooter and will be returning to the franchise's first-person roots as a squad-based military tactical shooter. The article then goes on to explore the attempt to make Ghost Recon more tactically authentic. Insider Gaming's report went on to state that the first-person perspective will see the title taking inspiration from some of the leading first-person military games, including the Modern Warfare series, Battlefield, Squad, and Ready or Not, and would be mil-sim-like in nature. Titles such as Modern Warfare and Ready or Not have not shied away from controversial missions, with the games showing terrorist attacks or active shooter situations unfolding, and the upcoming Ghost Recon is likely to cover similar dark topics during its exploration of the Name and War zone. Now let me just say, and I think I can speak for any authentic Ghost Recon fan, the fan that played the original Ghost Recon games and still thinks highly of them till this day. This is freaking positive news. Although I think the next game will just be a first-person upgrade to Breakpoint, it really makes me happy to see that leaks suggest that Ubisoft regrets formula they tried with Wildlands and Breakpoint because they were never authentic Ghost Recon games that are respected in the tactical genre. I strongly despise Ubisoft like most of you guys, but I'll give them a thumbs up for the effort. Let's see if they can execute. When Ghost Recon Project Over gets a release trailer, either in this weekend's Summerfest, the end of year, or maybe next year, I can only imagine the outrage in videos we will see from the Ghost Recon Wildlands community because the game isn't following their interpretation of Ghost Recon. But do you know what's going to happen as well if Ubisoft does a good job? The real core Ghost Recon community, the ones that were disappointed with the franchise after Ghost Recon 1, just might get back into the franchise. The ones that play the Armas, the Gray Zone Warfares, the Ready or Nots, the Escape from Tarkovs, the Door Kickers 2, the Squads, and there's so many others out there. The next Ghost Recon game doesn't need to be and isn't anchored on the success of Wildlands. It's banking on the success of regaining its core community. I know this video might have ruffled a few feathers, but that's okay. I really do respect the great work that and passions that you guys have in the community, but man, I just passionately disagree with a lot of points that come from our beloved Wildlands community. I think that's okay. I not might be right about everything or nothing at all, but these are some of my thoughts and I would love to know yours. My name is Eagle Eyes and I'll see you in the next video.